Okay, 7 o'clock, the meeting will come to order. Grace Lesperance, Cascade Township Supervisor. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Nordhook.
Here.
Supervisor Lesperance.
Here.
Clerk Corstange.
Here.
Trustee Kessel.
Here.
Trustee Shipley.
Present.
Trustee McDonald is excused and Clerk Slater here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Article 3, before we approve tonight's agenda, we have 2 amendments to make regarding items that just came up this week. So sorry for the last minute notice, but one would be to remove the last item under new business, 022-2024. Nope, sorry.
023.
023.
Where is it? Oh, I already removed it. Okay. Yep. Sorry. 023-2024. The education policy needs some more tune up. And then the second part would be, at a closed session following the second part of public comments. And that closed session is, based on MCL 15.268, section 8D, specifically so that the township can consider the potential purchase or lease of real property without giving the people the heads up, which could affect the sale or purchase price. With those 2 amendments, is there a motion or further discussion to approve tonight's agenda?
Shipley makes motion to approve the agenda with amendments as stated.
Support. That's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Nordhook to approve tonight's agenda with those 2 amendments. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Having no presentations this evening, we're now at Article 5, public comments. Now is the time to comment on anything that's on tonight's agenda. That would include potential truck purchases, dump truck purchase, improvements to different public roads, the Hero to Hero program with the fire department, a draft of our master plan amendment, also an ordinance change regarding the planning commission, and then the Independence Day budget and also road closures. So now's the time for anything on that list. And then following the board's business, we'll have another opportunity for public comments. At that time, you're welcome to comment on anything, whether it's on the agenda or not. Welcome, Mr. Moxley. So Mr. Moxley is the current chair of the Planning Commission.
I'm just getting over a cold, so I may swallow a little water now and then to keep my voice going. Thank you for the opportunity to address the entire Board of Trustees. I'd like to focus on the proposed reduction of Planning Commission members from 9 to 7. I believe that's part of the Police Powers Act that'll be considered today. I want to give you my honest opinion about this. Okay. I wish to express my honest opinion on the upcoming vote to reduce the Planning Commission number of members from 9 to 7. I offer this opinion as a PC member for the past 5 years, and I am currently serving as chair of the PC. I do not agree with this proposed reduction in PC members. I know 3 other members who agree with me on this issue. Going from 9 to 7 will be a long-term mistake. The board has never asked the PC members for our opinions on the issue of reducing the number of members from 9 to 7. Staff has never asked us once that I recall. I have a serious problem with this change because we, the PC members, are asked to staff subcommittees and do research work for the Board of Trustees, and to make recommendations regarding key issues facing the township, like farmland preservation, airport commerce zoning, round hill inspection problems, and procedures recommendations. And now this proposed change will not give us enough horsepower to do the job moving forward. You are assuming the 7 members you want to have on the PC are going to be available to work on the issues before them at any time. Well, guess what? Sometimes they're not available due to their full-time jobs, business meeting conflicts, vacations, family issues, or just plain illness. They say that other townships in King County are getting by with just 7 PC members, so why can't we? I doubt the rest of them have as much on their plate as Cascade Charter Township, like 28th Street corridor, a mix of urban and rural areas, light industrial and manufacturing, and an international airport that occupies 17% of the township land area and wants to ignore local zoning rules. I also feel that 9 members are better than 7 because we get a wider variety of opinions and thoughts. With only 7 members, we may miss an issue that 2 other PC members may bring to our attention. Thank you, board members, for your attention to this critical issue of planning commission members.
Thank you, Chair Maxley. Anyone virtually wishing to comment? Oh, sorry, we've got one more in person and then,
Yep, one virtual, but go ahead.
sir, any public comments in person right now? Did I misunderstand? Welcome.
Howdy. I'm here to talk about a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to know
Name?
how your
Oh, sorry.
return on investment. Oh, my name is Rod Schultz. I'm sorry. I don't like to give that out, so I won't be hounded. Anyway, I'd like to know what the return on investment is starting to be on the CPAs you brought in to do the business review of your things. There's a lot to be said there. But I'm here tonight about something else. I'm here about the pet cemetery, which first of
You
all,
gotta wait till second session.
oh, I
Sorry.
thought it said first.
No, apologize. So this one's for
Oh, it
anything
said
on.
public hearings. Oh,
That one, so Pet Cemetery, second session.
okay.
Welcome to comment, but just,
I'm sorry.
no, you're good. Thanks for being patient.
Okay, I just got in late and
No, you're good.
it's all over. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Scott.
Hi there, Scott Van Salkema. I'll be up shortly. I'm just finishing up with dinner, but I wanted to commend you both. I saw on the agenda there that regarding the Independence Day celebration that you guys are recommending that it is be called Independence Day and not just July 4th. So thank you very
Scott,
much
I can
for
see
that.
you're talking, but I cannot
Yep.
hear you.
Oh, hold on. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Okay, try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I apologize.
Okay, that's all right. I'll be up there shortly. Thank you to be there in person. I just finishing up with a family dinner. But anywho, I wanted to commend the township for on the agenda that the items are listed for Independence Day for the July 4th parade and the celebration up at the library and Friendship Park. I did see on there that you guys will be buying new banners and posters to advertise, and I just hope that you guys will continue the trend with celebrating the Independence Day of the United States. That's what July 4th is all about, and not just a date on a calendar. So I hope you guys continue that. I was going to speak at the second public comment, but I wanted to make sure that that was addressed before you guys do vote on that. There's no signage examples or anything like that was in the packet, so that was the only thing I wanted to comment about that. And also I do like that we are going to get buildings and grounds some new vehicles. Some of theirs are looking pretty old, and obviously the better equipment that those guys have to use, the more they could take care of the township, the pathways, the parks, and buildings and grounds around the association. So I'm all in favor of that, and I see that you guys did go with the government contracted government bid, which is obviously much better than us civilians can get. So I'm all for that use of money. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Article 6, approval of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Kessel, supported by treasurer Corstans to approve the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 7, financial actions, specifically a request for this board's approval for invoices listed in this packet to be paid on March 14th, 2024. Discussion or motion?
Shipley makes a motion to approve the expenses to be paid on the 14th of this month.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by treasurer Corstans to approve tonight's financial actions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Having no unfinished business, we are now at Article 9, item 014, 2024, approval of local roads program. I think we've got Manager Smith, and then if you want to turn it over to
Sure.
Township Engineer Thorne.
Yep, I'm going to turn it over to Eric pretty quickly here, but in your RBA and in your packet, it describes the road projects that are slated for 2024. We partnered with the County Road Commission, and I just want to bring it to your attention that there's two action items being requested here. One is the actual approval, and the other is a budget amendment that goes along with it. And I'll turn it over to Eric.
Happy to answer any questions. It's several miles of mill and fill, full depth, chip seal, and micro seal treatments that the county proposed to us. We discussed with the county and came to the conclusion to include the roads that are included in the scope based on their current condition, based on traffic volume, and the number of people that addressing these roads at this time would benefit. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer. Yes.
Eric, it looks like we're also approving some of the roads that we postponed from last year. Is that correct?
Yes, I
Like
believe that's the
Berger
micro seal.
area?
Yep.
Which makes sense because they're still working on the water system down there.
Mhm.
Okay, so this encompasses some that was postponed from last year and then the rest of them from this year?
Yeah, so the micro seal was what was postponed. That's up kind of in the Hillsborough area. If you are referring to the water main area down by Goodwood Burger, no work is slated for there this year, simply because we want to push all the work out until water main construction is complete there. Just so we're not trying to dodge current construction with resurfacing.
And having to redo it again?
Yes, exactly. So that is slated for coming years following the water main construction.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
Yep.
I think we chip sealed Laraway Lake Drive the last time.
I think, yep, that sounds familiar.
Have you driven it lately?
Probably in the last couple of weeks, yeah.
Yeah, I drive it every day. There are some nasty holes
Are there? Okay.
and they're between I don't drive the other side of Tamron, but I drive from Tamron down to Cascade Road, and you should drive it. You've got to be careful. There are some deep holes in there. That road, I don't think, or roads like that should be chip sealed. They should be milled and filled
Yeah.
because that just doesn't last.
Typically, and the road that's proposed on here to be chip seal, I think it's probably 32nd Street. Typically, they're nicer roads, and the county's their perspective on chip sealing roads is typically it's counterintuitive to what some people might think. It's to chip seal nicer roads to maintain the surface longer. So typically, you wouldn't chip seal a road like you're describing. It very well could have been, and I don't doubt that it has its issues. I can have a discussion with the county. We're also at that time of season where freeze thaw has done its damage and perhaps potholes haven't been addressed yet
Yeah.
by the county. So I could certainly have that conversation with them. But as well, I believe Laraway Lake is a road in the next few years the county wanted to resurface. I just know that just because we've been trying to get a shared use pathway down that road, and we're trying to coincide the installation of that with the new road resurfacing.
Yeah,
So it's a
that
road
makes
that's on their radar, but certainly I'll have a discussion with them if it needs work in the interim.
Engineer Thorne, what's the county match for the residents who might not be aware?
It's 50/50. So 50, they put in half the money, we put in the other half. They pretty much match what we want to put in.
And also, can you describe why certain, like, what kind of roads this works on? And then also what roads that may need repair, but that, and residents notice and contact us about, but that not part of the match program at the discretion of the road commission?
And so typically this applies to local roads. What might not apply to, or what we would let the county take the lead on, is like a trunk line road, like a
What would that
28th, like a 28th Street or a Cascade Road. Major 4 or 5 lane roads that see significant traffic intercounty. Typically what we address in this program is neighborhood roads, and roads that are smaller and traffic volumes. Not that the county's not open to our requests, but again, that 50/50 match kicks in, and a lot of times they're heavier traveled roads are on a roadmap for them to fix in a certain horizon timeline.
Can you speak on, there was a question raised today about, someone noticed that this area slated for road maintenance improvements is in an area where, the planning commission recently had a meeting. There's a private business that wants to do some major construction. And the question was, why don't we time the two so that they could, base our road schedule off, taking into account.
Yeah, do we know where that's at exactly?
Skytron, it's
Oh, yeah, yep, it's down by, the garden apartments are going in down there too.
mhm.
I've seen the Skytron, I think I've seen the plan for that. I've looked at it for stormwater. I mean, depends on the type of work they're doing. If they're doing a lot of heavy machinery in and out type of work, maybe typically we would try to coincide with them. Arguably you could delay it. I mean, and it might make sense. For their volume of trucks, I would imagine are going in and out of there. I can't imagine it'd make that big of a difference. I mean, certainly, if you want to keep as many trucks off it before you resurface it, yeah, you could wait, but the benefit I don't think is there to wait unless they're tearing down the whole place and spending the next 2 years running trucks in and out of there. But I didn't get the sense that it's that big of a project.
You wanna comment?
Just to add to that, so we coordinate with the county on road projects years in advance and have a road plan. They cover the entire county. So for us to organize with the county in regards to Cascades roads and our local roads and our match program, and then to have a developer come in and go through the process of site improvements or additions, the really two are not correlated at all. What we can do is if it's known in advance where there's road projects coming, we can do one of two things: work with them on either delaying the project, or we can put a condition on the approval of the site plan and the work, and that will put the onus back on the developer to do any sort of roads repairs if they damage the roads during the construction process. And I don't want to put you on the spot, Andrea, but I don't think that they're going to have large trucks come. I mean, I don't know what kind of construction they're going to be doing, but I would say that the two really are not. There's only certain things we can control.
Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, there'll be earthwork, there'll be big trucks in and out, but it's not like it's going to become a quarry or something where you just see, 40-ton dump trucks in and out all day
Right.
for weeks at a time. It'll be a relative. It's just an addition to their existing facility that construction will come and go.
Great. Further discussion, questions? Taking advantage of Engineer Thorne while we've got him up here. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay. I make a motion that we accept the township engineer's paving of the roads identified on the material we have for 400,000.
Ripley supports.
It's more than
That comes next.
But we're going to handle those issues separately.
But we need approval of the contract with the county for the amount of $623,500, and then a separate budget amendment for $223,500 for the additional.
And you would like us to do two separate motions for that or combine them into one? Doesn't matter.
I'll ask the attorney, but I think they should be two motions. Two.
Okay. Is there support for trustee Kessel's motion?
Shipley supports.
So it's a motion by trustee Kessel, supported by trustee Shipley, to enter into the cost sharing agreement with the road commission to complete the road improvements as stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there a second motion or further discussion?
Make a motion to amend the budget by $223.50. What?
223,500.
Yeah. Correct. 223,500.
Support. It's a motion by trustee Kessel, supported by treasurer Corsange, to approve a budget amendment that provides for the full funding for the township's portion of costs in the amount of $223,500. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Thorne. Next item, 015-2024, approval of the Hero to Hero program. This initiative combines the best of both worlds. It links our firefighters with our veterans and provides opportunities for both our local fire department and also our veterans. So we're happy to be able to have this discussion tonight. Manager Smith's overview in the packet described the program in detail, but I think we also have Chief Majors here tonight. And Manager Smith, do you have any comments before we hear from Chief Majors?
No, it's Chief Major's message.
Okay,
He put this together. I want to give credit where credit is due.
just didn't want to
Yeah.
cut you out.
No, you're good, but
Thank
he
you.
can, he absolutely can get up and talk about this
Okay,
or speak, wherever.
Can you hear me now?
yes.
I can stay here then. That's fine.
Or you can stand, your choice.
You know, I love the podium, so yeah, I'll just stay here. It's fine. Yeah, so looking for board approval tonight to partner with the Hero to Hero program. It's a nonprofit that's very popular on the east side of the country. It connects active duty airmen, soldiers, sailors with first responder careers. Think of it like an internship with either a fire department or a police department, dispatch, ambulance company. They're 4 to 6 months in length at no cost to the township. It's a way for active duty military members who are nearing the end of their enlistment to transition into a civilian career that would be a good fit for them. Cascade Fire's got a very good reputation. Obviously, as a military veteran myself, it is near and dear to my heart. I think this is a good fit for Cascade Township as well. It gives us some staffing to give us some help at no cost to the township. And it also helps our military members transition to that civilian role. So I see it as a good fit. The township does retain the rights to shut it down. If the candidate isn't a good fit or if there's an issue to be able to cut ties. So we do protect our rights in that regard. And so I'm confident that this would be a good program to explore. And so if you have any questions, hopefully I can answer them.
Who carries the liability insurance for them, Adam?
The Department of Defense. So they will still be all wages, benefits, liability, training, everything is still paid for by the Department of Defense. We're just a landing spot that has to help them kind of make sense of it all. So they would work with us, but be paid for by the Department of Defense, including liability.
Thank you.
Chief, got a couple of questions. Number one, when they complete the program, do they get certified as firefighter 1 and firefighter 2?
Well, it depends. Typically right now, to get certified as a firefighter, it's a 2-year process. And so as a 4 to 6 month program, there wouldn't be time to get completely, but we could possibly get them through the fire academy or possibly get them through EMT academy or emergency driver or hazmat, and just get them some exposure and get them part of the way there. So probably not unless they have that as a vocation in the military. So we would get them part of the way there and really let them figure out whether it's a career for them or not. And then also too, when they're done with the program, if they are a good fit, Cascade Township is always struggling to hire paid on call firefighters that are willing to do the job. It's a pretty good audition period to have them for 4 to 6 months. And if they're a good fit, that's a good fit for us as well. So then that would be mutually beneficial.
So it's a good kickstart all the way around for everyone.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other communities on this side of the state or in Michigan that you know of that are participating?
We'd be the first. It's, like I said, it's very popular on the east side of the country, a lot in Virginia, Connecticut, and up the eastern seaboard. Again, Cascade Fire it's a good community. We're progressive. And so we get on a lot of people's radar for this kind of thing, but this one stood out.
I think it helps that your military background. Thanks for being aware of it and bringing it to our attention.
Appreciate it.
Requested board action, if any.
Just need approval to participate. Basically, what that would, there was a sample MOU, so I would, after reviewing with our attorney to make sure that it's correct, I would sign a letter basically saying we agree to participate with Hero to Hero. And when we get a candidate, and it is a good fit and we bring them on, it's just that we would work together, basically an agreement.
Shipley makes a motion to approve the chief's tutelage of this program and give him control over the administration of it.
Support. It's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Nordhook and treasurer Corstange to approve chief's recommendations for Cascade Township to engage in the Hero to Hero program. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Item 016-2024, approval of pickup truck purchases. This is the first of several purchases for our buildings and grounds crew as part of the township's renewed emphasis on maintenance of public spaces and facilities. So Manager Smith, I'll turn it to you, and then thank you, Parks Director Mannion, for being here tonight also.
Yeah, I'll cover the next two just at once, and if there's specific questions, I can answer those. But we have before you tonight the purchase of two new F-250s 4x4 pickup trucks and the purchase of a dump truck chassis and a build out. Those are the two agenda items back to back. These were both budgeted items that were approved for the 2024 budget. The staff has gone through the appropriate bidding process, which we're getting state bid pricing on this. Both have come in under budget, and if there's any questions, we can answer those.
I have a comment. I really like everything about this except for the proposed color. Be my preference that we keep them white because that's what we're used to. People are used to seeing that. Stands out. I'm curious why that was potentially selected.
Director Mannion and I have had some conversations. It was an opportunity. I don't think there's been new vehicles in the township in many years in regards to building and grounds vehicles. We thought a new color would be appropriate. The white ones look dirty all the time. They're rusted. Some of this has to do with maintenance that probably wasn't done to the vehicles. But if the desire of the board is to go back and remain with white, we are more than happy to do that.
I like white. Anybody else?
I think that something other than white will be easier to maintain, at least appearance wise. I know that many people, when they select a color, select gray or kind of a tawny color. I have no issue with whatever color they want, because you know what? The township logo is going to be on the side of it, regardless of what color it is.
I just as comments, I agree with Sue in the fact that seeing the trucks on the trail all of the time, plowing, doing maintenance on our trails. I think it's easy as a resident to identify currently our white pickups with the logos on them. I think that if we change, it is going to be something that we need to notify the residents of or something so people understand when you see a gray car or gray truck on the trail system, it's not just somebody randomly driving down the trail system. It is part of the maintenance. I think, I don't know. I don't have a strong preference, but I do agree with keeping the white vehicles just because that's what we're used to.
I would even go half and half.
Like half the truck white, half the truck.
No, make the truck white and make the dump truck gray if you really want that.
Can I add a couple quick things? The reason it's exactly what you're saying is to a lot of maintenance organizations go with the gray because it does hide things a little bit better. I did not know there was a strong opinion about the white because we did used to have green trucks. So it wasn't that long. And we thought that since all of our fleet is going to need to be replaced very soon, it would make sense to do it at a time in which we're going to have a quick transition. And we do, just to go to what you're saying, we do have lights on top of, we have the logo, but we also have lights on top of all of our vehicles. So when they're on the trail, they're supposed to have, or off the side of the road, they're supposed to have those lights on, indicating that they're a township employee and that they're authorized. But again, if it's a pressing point, we're happy to go with white. We're just happy to have trucks that work and don't leak.
How large is the fleet?
It's 5 trucks plus a dump truck.
So we're almost halfway there if we did start now.
Exactly.
I'm okay with that either way. I don't love having half and half, but if we're in the process of switching them up, what do the maintenance workers?
I will tell you, I wanted gray just because that's what I'm accustomed to. But they actually came to me and said, we would like to maybe transition to something that's a little bit easier to hide the dirt and the grime and again, the
I'm
salt.
good. Yeah, and I'm the people doing the work, the ones that have to clean the vehicles. I think hearing their opinion counts. And I think that that is an important part to consider, so.
And they did vote, and Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, the gray came out as a clear lead, right? You guys did vote and the gray came out. They're very democratic.
Good, okay.
Was
Fair
it,
enough.
was it a close
I mean,
vote?
if that, I'm good with. I mean, if we have a fleet of 5, we're replacing 2 currently. We're
3.
in 3 currently. Oh, so 3 includes the.
No, it's a fleet of 5 pickup trucks and then 1 dump truck. So that's 6 total. So we'd be doing
50%.
50%.
Okay, that's what I was saying. If we had 5, we were doing 2
Yeah.
of the regular pickup trucks. And the workers doing the work that have to maintain and clean the vehicles would prefer the gray. I support that.
When do you anticipate the second half of our trucks coming up for replacement?
So if you look at the lifespan of our vehicles currently in our capital plan, they were to be 5 years old. And then transitioned over, all of them exceed 5 years. You can see these are some of our, these are 10 and 12 years. Our next, I think our youngest is 6 years. So they've all exceeded their lifespan. So I do anticipate we will be coming back, because another thing that's really, it attributes to all of this too, is because they do a lot of salting, they get a lot more wear and tear than a normal truck. Hence the rust that is on all of our trucks. So again, that's another reason why their lifespan is so much smaller.
How often are they washed? Are they washed in a commercial car wash or do they do it by hand? How often are they washed to get that rust off or salt? Oh, awesome. Awesome. Okay.
But we will, that is something that we're going to put into a standard maintenance plan that might not have been there, but right now we're about to get a new software that will have a preventative maintenance plan on items, and this will be one of those items.
In regards to the replacement of the rest of the fleet, as we move forward with the 2025 budget, which will happen here shortly, the capital improvement plan will also coincide with that, as I talked about with the last budget. So the remaining of the fleet will be worked into that 5-year CIP plan.
Is the plan going forward that we replace the trucks every 5 years?
I think there's a lot more factors than just a years.
Okay, got it.
Where I've come from, there's different things. You want to look at mileage, you want to look at the condition of the body, you want to look at the use, how much it's gone through, like how much wear and tear, and then also look at the age. Right now, you can't even put anything in the back of the dump truck because it falls right in. So to say we're well beyond our
We don't want
lifespan.
you guys getting too fancy and spoiled.
They're not fancy. We should
just
have
wanna be
brought one
safe.
tonight for you guys to see.
We just want
I
to
think
be
it sends
safe,
the right message, though. We're fiscally responsible and
It's true.
except for when you're actually spending more in maintenance than you are.
Okay, so you've won me over because when you told me the guys voted and they wanted that and they're going to be driving it, I will concede. And so I will make a motion to approve the proposal as proposed.
Shipley supports quickly.
the motion by Clerk Slater, supported by Treasurer Shipley, to approve the pickup truck purchases in the color of gray. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 017-2024, approval of the dump truck purchase. Further discussion, motion?
Motion to approve the purchase as submitted.
Shipley supports.
It's a motion by trustee Kessel, supported by treasurer Corstand to approve the purchase as stated. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, 018-2024. Consider approval of request to distribute the draft of the 2024 master plan and to begin the 63-day period. Township Legal Counsel Mike Homier is here this evening to outline the process associated with the 63-day comment period and next steps. And then we also have Danielle Bouchard from McKenna and Associates, the planning firm that we have contracted to do this, to provide an overview of the highlights of the actual master plan itself. So Manager Smith, do you have any comments before we turn it over to the professionals?
No, I don't.
That's what I was going for. Just joking. Do you have any comments before we proceed?
I do not.
Okay. And I was just teasing you, obviously. Okay. Mr. Homier, could you please walk us through?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
So the Michigan Planning Enabling Act has a prescribed process for master plans, both adoptions and amendments. I'm not sure at least how you've construed it because the amendment process is a little different than it is an initial adoption. So when you initially adopt a master plan, the waiting period is 63 days. So you would approve the distribution of that. Or if you don't, you could send it back to the planning commission for revisions or comments. In any event, the plan does not get distributed until you okay the distribution of that. And so once you do that, depending on whether it's the adoption of an initial or revised plan, the comment period for those that receive the plan is either 63 or 41 days, or maybe 43 days. But it's reduced for an amendment as it is for a total rewrite of a master plan. So once that comment period is over, then the planning commission will ultimately receive the master plan, make some recommendation back to the board, and the board, I believe, if I recall correctly, has reserved on itself the ability to approve the master plan. What happens then is the board can consider the final version. They can either approve it, they could send it back if they wanted to the planning commission with questions or instructions on what to address. But that plan does not become effective then until the township board approves it.
So with this approval or consideration, the residents of the township have got a significant amount of time to take a look at it and notify us whether they like it or not with a 63-day approval process.
Yeah, with 63 days, and it goes to a number of different jurisdictions, including those around you and the airport and all of those other entities.
Thank you.
Plus, there will be another public hearing, I believe, at the planning commission.
During this 63-day time period, can the planning commission pull this back and stop that 63 days and start working on this plan from a different angle?
That's a good question. I've never had that happen. It likely wouldn't happen, right? You'd wait until the comments, and then you would, based on those comments and maybe even the public hearing, then make revisions to it after that. I mean, if the board believes that it's not ready for distribution, it could always send it back now. But once you've sent it out for distribution and review and comment, there wouldn't be a reason to stop that because you still have the ability to revise it after that. That's the whole purpose of
Thank you.
the review and comment.
And just to clarify something you said too, two things. One, this already went through the planning commission to us to open the 63-day period. So it has already been to the planning commission with their review already. And then two, if it does go back to them after 63 days, they make changes to it, we would have to open back up the 63 days again, correct?
Yeah, that's right. You would probably, if you pull it back, if you say, that we're going to distribute it again, that is the trigger for that time period.
And does the Board of Trustees get to decide if that does in fact go back to the Planning Commission?
At which stage?
63-day, time's up.
So what will happen is the planning commission, once they receive those comments, should hold a public hearing on the plan and then make a recommendation, right, of that recommended version of the plan. Once the board receives it, then the board has the final authority to adopt it. So you would review the plan. You might have questions that you send back to the planning commission. You may not, but ultimately the board then has the authority to approve that plan. In some cases, not many anymore, it was where the planning commission had final authority to adopt the plan, unless the legislative body reserves for itself the ability to approve that plan, which the township has done.
Just based on what, this is just a random question, what you just said. So goes back to the planning commission after 60 days, their public hearing. If they make any adjustments to that, let's say not based on public comments, just they decided to make some changes. When it comes back to the board, does the board have the authority to keep the original master plan that we are looking at currently? Or do we have to make those changes and open up the 63-day period after the planning commission makes any adjustments to it?
No, you wouldn't have to open the 63-day, but I believe, and I'll take a look at the statute, but I believe that if you don't approve of the master plan, then it goes back to the planning commission until such time as they produce a master plan that you will approve.
Okay.
And so it goes back and forth.
So if they, so if they change it and it comes back to us and we say hypothetically, we like the original that we've already had the 63-day period. We didn't get any public comment regarding this. The public seems to agree with it. But you made changes. We want it to go back to the original. It still has to go back to the planning commission for them to work out,
Correct.
to come back to us with the original. We don't have the authority, even though we've opened the 63-day period and we've already got approval from the planning commission once on this. We don't have the authority after 63 days to adopt it.
That's correct. Not if it's revised then and sent to you and you don't like it, it goes back to the planning commission to address the issues that you have with it.
Just to clarify, the 63-day notice period, that's required for for the local surrounding entities and non-government authorities like the airport, right?
Yes.
So, and it's out in the public, so hopefully residents are paying attention and can look at it. But when and how in this adoption process will the planning commission and then also the board of trustees, or when are we able to hold a public hearing or multiple public hearings for residents to comment on this?
So after that 63-day comment period, the planning commission will review those comments and then schedule a public hearing for the public hearing input on that. And then after that, they will make a recommendation to the township board.
And reviewing those comments means most likely the comments from the entities like local governments that received it and may have had some say, and also the airport, right?
Yes. In most cases, municipalities don't receive any comments from a distribution of a master plan.
And
Not all, but in most.
This was triggered in part because of, it came to our attention how our 2019 master plan, it calls for light industrial zoning east of the airport. Basically what is going on in Kentwood to expand south and east, which the airport wants, and it came up, I learned about it as supervisor in a public survey on the Nextdoor website, where the airport, who desires in their growth to have direct access to and on and via the expressway, not just off Patterson. So they cited our own master plan, Cascade Township's master plan, which called for expansion of commercial development, industrial development, and growth in that on the eastern part of the township as a need. They cited us as a reason and a need for direct additional on and off ramps in Cascade Township, which as a supervisor raised a red flag when you're seeing that and you don't know about it, which then led us to realize that in fact, our master plan under previous leadership called for that, as well as the addition of a full on and off ramp at 48th Street and Thornapple River Drive. And there were other zoning issues, requests for development that came up that then we realized if we don't want that to happen, then we needed to take action to change how internally the township had their master plan right now. And the sooner the better. And this came up also in a zoning ordinance and a land use map in the master plan that the planning commission, we've already done this process for that map in particular to bring the airport. We've had that battle already, and this is consistent with like the second part, but
42 days is for an amendment to a master plan, an amendment, extension, revision, 63 for, and it's always, we always debate, you know, whether it's an amendment or a rewrite. So
I was just gonna ask Danielle if you,
I'll just come up if that's okay.
yep.
So I think that due to the substantial deviation from the current master plan that the township has, that this would warrant more of the rewrite classification. Because there are so many differences, let alone just the document formatting itself being a document and not an online version only.
Can you explain that to people who don't understand what
Yeah.
we've got now versus what we're going to have?
Yeah, so do I face this way?
It doesn't matter, just.
So the current master plan is an online only version of the master plan. So there's like a table of contents at the top, you kind of click around. We have been under the impression that it's not very user friendly and easy for folks to navigate, as well as for township board and planning commissioners and township staff to have a hard tangible copy of the master plan that they can use for implementation purposes. So that was kind of the major driver to make this shift into an actual document that could be both printable and an online version. So that way it can service all types of users.
And right now on our website, it's a link under, I don't know, community development, but it's referred to as the comprehensive plan, which is another word, but it's a lot less known. So if you're looking for the master plan, you're not gonna find it labeled as such.
Mm-hmm.
So the process, you know, you asked about the public hearing. The public hearing by the planning commission cannot be held until that expiration of that period.
Okay.
Okay, so that's when they review those comments if submitted by the jurisdiction, and then we'll hold that public hearing. And at that point, then they can make a recommendation to you. And the board really only has one option, either approve or reject. And the statute says, you know, if you reject it, then you send it back to the planning commission with your objections and requesting that the planning commission address those objections. And that goes back and forth until you get something that you're ready to approve.
And if any of you guys have gone on Thornapple River Drive east of the airport and noticed the big Visser for sale signs and it's labeled industrial, like for sale industrial, it's not, it's zoned agricultural. So their plan was which is their business model, they sell it, they buy it cheap because it's agricultural. So you're buying a cheap cornfield. You divide it up into, I don't know how many parcels, 80 to 80 different light industrial parcels, you make a fortune. And then in the meantime, which is exactly, they had the township where they wanted it, was the plan was, as stated in our master plan, that upon that, we would then rezone it to light industrial. So we do the rezoning, they make a fortune, and then residents are stuck with the consequences, but nobody knew it. What stopped that in part from happening largely is because right now it requires sewer and water. And luckily they didn't get their ducks in a row as far as sewer and water. Other than that, we would have been there. And good luck containing that. Once you've got light industrial, no one wants to live next to it. So then the airport has the justified need for the additional on and off ramps. They get that. No one wants to live next to an on and off ramp. So it's really hard to contain that spread. I could go on and on. This has been a big issue in Cascade Township that residents don't know about. And if residents knew about it, I think they would be really upset. It's huge for Cascade Township with having a high-end residential community with 80% of your property tax base being residential. And despite what the airport tells everybody, only 6% of our property tax base is industrial. And none of that comes from the Gerald R. Ford Airport at all, because as a county land, they don't pay taxes. But it's the growth pressures in Cascade Township were immense. Nobody knew about it. And It's too bad that people didn't look closer at what we were set up to under the past leadership, but we are now, and I think we've stood up and fixed it.
I have a question for Mike. So I just need a little clarification. Once we approve this 63-day period, the clock starts. Can the planning commission come in and say 30 days from now, stop? We want to work on it now.
No.
Why, I needed that clarified.
Yeah, and what the trigger is the actual distribution, right? Which
Okay.
starts the time running. So what you're approving is the distribution of that plan to the entities that by statute have to receive it. After that period ends, and with 15 days notice, then the planning commission must hold at least one public hearing.
Okay.
And then they can adopt a resolution approving the master plan. And because the township board has reserved final approval, then it comes to you. You can either approve it or reject it. And if you reject it, you send it back with your objections with a request to address those objections.
Thank you.
Is it fair to say that a township or a local municipality, the primary ways to control or at least influence growth is zoning and then utilities?
Well, certainly zoning through the master plan, right?
Uh-huh.
Which may include a capital improvement plan component, which may include utility districts, and then zoning. So, generally speaking, development follows utilities.
And our utility map, which means what Cascade Township talked with the city of Grand Rapids and decided on, was that you've got your existing utilities and you've got where you anticipate that you would like utilities in the future. And what Cascade's map had was it doesn't extend to residential neighborhoods or the PFAS neighborhoods. It extended east and south along the airport to allow for industrial development. So as of right now, Cascade Township that was the priority in the master plan. It's really absurd if you think about it. The only reason they got away with it is because residents didn't know. Trying to show restraint.
Is this a good segue? Should I?
As long as you're clear in what we've got now and what we're gonna get.
I should also note too that the major foundation for this master plan rewrite and update process was what we heard back from the community through the strategic plan process. If you guys recall, like it was around 2021 that process started, the township put forth an effort to put mailers in everybody's mailboxes, surveys upon surveys and all of that, and of which we heard back from over 2,000 people in the township. So that's also a major foundation and basis for this new plan. So just to note too, that we're listening and we heard you and this is a result of that.
And that was an important step in laying the foundation to then make the changes with the resident support.
So if now is an appropriate time, do you mind if I just kind of briefly go through some highlights of the master plan for the township board as well as for the community tonight? In interest of your lengthy agenda this evening, I'll kind of move through this a little bit quickly, but just note that this plan will be fully available online upon approval of distribution. So the community will still have opportunity to look through the master plan in its entirety. So some general topics, overall master plan goals, major topics of the master plan include green space preservation, building Cascade Village, which was consistently the #1 priority we heard from the township board, planning commission, township residents, taxpayers, and then identifying or the identification of redevelopment or mixed use areas. So overall master plan general goals include the preservation and strengthening of residential neighborhoods. So of course, when we mention strengthen, that's not necessarily to say higher density or anything of that capacity, but it's more so preserving the residential neighborhoods that exist today and perhaps enhancing in terms of sidewalks or streetlights or something of that capacity, but not anything major. This is the major theme and key of this plan is preservation. Preserving open space and natural areas. Again, that keyword preservation that happens throughout the document. enhancing the viability of township businesses. So of course, supporting that existing economic development component of the township and ensuring that current businesses and valued business owners in the township can continue their businesses. Maintaining and expanding a diverse parks and trail system, which is also an important component of preservation and natural landscape. Maintaining and enhancing public services. So when we mean enhancing public services, this is more so aimed toward police and fire resources, not necessarily utilities, which I'll get into in a minute. Provide and support an efficient, safe, and environmentally friendly, sensitive road, pedestrian, and bike network, again, so that addresses to that piece of the strategic plan, which we heard from the community that road safety and traffic patterns are very important to the community, and we wanted to ensure that this master plan addressed that. And then lastly, promote an efficient and sustainable growth principles. So again, this is very much indicative of that preservation component and that smart growth principle that we want to curb the suburban creep and identify clear-cut areas where redevelopment opportunities are available and supported, and then also identify where existing conditions are the best fit. So here is an overall draft of the future land use map. I won't go into this into a ton of detail, but just please note that important pieces here are to the east of Buttrick. You notice that there's a whole chunk of green there that is intended for rural preservation and farmland preservation. The medium green and dark green colors are intended for open space preservation or potential future park areas. Yellow indicates residential. Light yellow is more of that traditional single-family neighborhood type of environment. Along 28th Street is where that targeted redevelopment or infill development is likely to occur. And then gray is for signifies the existing industrial presence in the township. And then the purple in the southwest corner indicates more of a mixed use, which I'll get into in a minute. So with regard to green space preservation, the master plan goes into a lot of detail I should also note too that this master plan is intentionally written to be very action oriented. And because of that, the plan includes a very robust zoning plan and a very robust future land use plan. So typically your master plan will include an existing conditions analysis, public engagement report, and then your future land use plan. So with this plan, we kind of flipped that around a little bit and we said, we've heard from the public and we did an extensive public engagement program. Here were the results of that. And here's what we're going to do about it. And then after that is kind of more of that background analysis information to vet and support those goals. So with regard to green space preservation, this includes a review and analysis of the farmland preservation and the ARC district, which is Agriculture Rural Conservation, I believe, district. This includes an analysis of minimum lot sizes, permitted land uses, permitted accessory uses, and so forth to ensure that those two districts are supportive of large lot residential, not having that suburban creep. Prohibiting PUDs, private roads, site condos, and plats in the farmland preservation district, because that farmland preservation district should do just that, preserve farmland. Allow rezonings to R1 only within the utility service boundary. So anything outside of the utility service boundary would not be appropriate for small or medium lot residential development. Continuing township efforts to acquire land for preservation and recreation. So this map here on the right is that draft map of potentially identified or potential areas that we heard from the community during the strategic plan process of areas that the township should look into for parkland or green space preservation or farmland preservation areas. And then lastly, I would like to note the Thornapple Crescent Greenway, which is that area along the airport that Grace was just referencing, that the key theme of this plan is the preservation of that space.
As a buffer, because once you allow a little bit in, good luck containing it. Everybody wants to be the exception. But when you've got an airport waiting for multiple on and off ramps, you got to be a little bit proactive.
And which is a great segue into this slide, where we talk a little bit more about the Airport Greenway, which is kind of what we were calling it, but then that sort of got rebranded to the Thornapple Crescent, because we wanted to sort of pull out airport from that. So another piece of that too is that the Federal Aviation, FAA, whatever the second A is for, has the no development areas essentially. So those hatched areas that you see here indicate the approximate airport safety zone areas, which line very well with that preservation of that green space there. I should also note too that I did an analysis of prime farmland areas in the township, and that falls within that suitable soil area. So that's not to say that it should be farmland, but that is to say that preservation efforts are important there. Again, especially in light of PFAS issues, which have already been mentioned this evening, watershed and groundwater protection by preserving that space that could only contribute to that effort. Preservation of character, improvement of perhaps recreation, so passive recreation opportunities such as trails, bike paths, walking trails, bird watching opportunities, things like that. Granted, I don't know how many birds would be around there, but and then, of course, to mitigate any airport land use conflicts. We also revised the urban services boundary. So the urban services boundary is essentially a boundary that, per the master plan, is utilized to draw that clear line of where new development is appropriate and where it's not appropriate, and where that suburban creep is appropriate and where it's not appropriate. On the proposed draft here, you see that the utility service boundary has been substantially dialed back from what was proposed in 2019 in the existing map here to the left. We note that this plan, aside from this little jot out here in Ashwood that already has existing utilities, that the township does not anticipate the extension of utilities beyond Buttrick in light of that preservation piece and support of rural and natural character. In addition to, and I should also note too that this, of course, isn't the township line. This goes further. And of course, I also would like to point out too that the current future land use map includes all of this area here within the utility service boundary, as in development would be supported there. Whereas the new draft plan on the right kind of cuts this part out around the airport where existing utilities exist. But it also should be noted that it is very costly and cumbersome to extend those utilities anywhere near the river or near the highways, or underneath rivers or highways, or any of the topographical challenges that the township has as well. So that was also taken into account through this process, is what is actually logical and makes sense for those utility extensions.
Just to pile on though, as far as cost and where we were at process wise, when we were having the discussion over the past year, there was a planning commission subcommittee on it, and the Visser development crew came with our local Right Place, who then brought a representative or had a connection with the MEDC, which is that Michigan Economic something, where they had they shared that they thought they had lined up the $10 million in state funding to pay for the extension of water and sewer along the east of the airport so that they could have that commercial or industrial development.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, the significance of that.
Absolutely. With regard to golf courses, so I think that from a land use perspective, golf courses kind of ebb and flow over the years. We saw that they were kind of dying for a while, and then when COVID happened, they kind of picked back up. So it is important to understand that golf courses, while they may be golf courses for the next 20 years, but they might not be. And the township already has areas that are redeveloped golf courses in the past that have been kind of gobbled up by residential development. So we found it to be prudent to look at those areas within the future land use map and the new master plan to ensure that the plan for those golf courses will be something that the township wants, because those are large swaths of land and they are prime for development if sold. So having said all that, first priority for the future of golf courses are, of course, active golf courses. Second priority would be to turn those over to the township for perhaps a public park opportunity or a county park opportunity. And then the third priority would be very low density, high quality housing with preserved green space allocated within. So again, the goal here is that we want to preserve the existing, natural character of those golf course spaces while also recognizing that maybe one day they may not be a golf course and we should plan for that in the event that that happens. So as I previously mentioned, Cascade Village, this was a consistent goal that we heard from across the board, from anyone ranging from business owners to township residents to taxpayers to township board members to planning commissioners, that the elevation and the development of the Cascade Village area into a walkable, bikeable community feel with low massing and appropriate massing for walkability and bikeability is a high priority for the township as well as the DDA. So through this plan, we have identified 4 different sub areas, so to speak, within the Cascade Village area. The yellow acts as if we've kind of identified that as a village fringe, which acts as a transition zone between 28th Street development to the village core development, which is where you'll see the existing precedents there with the old township hall and the cottagey type of development that's very walkable and people would like to spend time there. Thornapple Centers, this blue area here, that includes like the folding warehouse and where Starbucks is and all of that. Perhaps there are some infill opportunities there, infill development opportunities there to enhance that space to more user-friendly and public-facing and incorporating placemaking elements there. And then Old 28th Street here in the orange, where there are additional opportunities to perhaps fill that with housing opportunities for maybe aging in place, missing middle type housing that is appropriate for a more village-esque environment.
So is it fair to say, like, for example, the Tommy's Car Wash and the apartments behind Culver's that popped up in the last, I don't know, 5, 6, however long, then under this master plan and what's being proposed, that perhaps those types of developments or construction would not then be appropriate in, say, closer to the village and the river area?
That is correct. Yeah, so anything that would be more auto-oriented in nature, that would be more appropriate further further west along 28th Street, which then translates into zoning, and we'll kind of get into that too. So key projects in the village include the Thornapple Center upgrades or redevelopment opportunities, as I previously mentioned, where there's a lot of underutilized parking there, opportunities to kind of develop that village, walkable village feel where people can eat and dine and live all in the same space. Enhancing Old 28th Street's streetscape. Of course, the bike path across the bridge, which everyone at the township has been working very hard at, and that's going to be an excellent project when that's off the ground. Library campus upgrades, again, as you guys have all seen, there's already work happening on that, and that's going to be an important community asset to the village. And then as well as Tassel Park expansion. So with regard to architectural standards, so we want to ensure that, and the master plan, the major goal of the master plan is a policy guiding document, which then sets the stage for your subsequent zoning ordinance amendments. So to achieve the type of development that the township is interested in for the Cascade Village area in specific, having clear architectural standards to ensure that you don't get the type of development that you don't want does not come in the village area. So for example, we want to have an enhanced built character along 28th Street, ensure that buildings are appropriate with regard to landscaping and signage and site circulation and all of those problems that 28th Street faces. Additionally, expanding the village to 28th Street corridor to create that transition will then create that sense of place for folks that they will then know, oh, I'm in Cascade Village because the architecture here is just so vastly different than what it is down 28th Street. And then, of course, continuing to work with that architectural review committee, which is required per the zoning ordinance currently for developing those enhanced standards. So kind of that mechanism there would be that the better would be required by zoning, the better built environment is required by zoning, but then the DDA could then step into that and financially create incentives supply that carrot and the stick type of relationship where the DDA could potentially step in for that best and carry that over above and beyond what's required by zoning.
Which the DDA's priority and where they put the money in the last, I don't know, 2016 on or so has been the rapid, the bus up and down 28th Street. That's been stopped. So now there's more resources available to put into the village area, which was the residents' number one priority in the strategic plan.
Yep.
If it makes sense, that's all wrapped together.
Yep, and the DDA is making moves and they're working on that process as well. So that's it. These are all kind of all things that are happening all at the same time. These are just some quick pictures that the DDA was interested in that we did a visual preference analysis, but I wanted to give the community a little bit more of a visual idea of what we talk about when we say Cascade Village. So don't think multi-story massive type of buildings here. We're talking smaller, cottagey, very traditional type of feel that offers that walkable and bikeable type of atmosphere, but you're not going to have that scale and massing of an urban environment. So that's why we've been very intentional to utilize the term village and not, I don't know, city or urban or anything like that, that kind of has more of a terminology that's not consistent with what we mean here. So just some quick examples from around the area of what that village built environment will likely entail. And then lastly, I'll just kind of go quickly through these redevelopment or mixed use areas as identified in the master plan, one of which being 28th Street mixed use. So we've had quite a few conversations with the Planning Commission with regard to this subject and what building heights are appropriate and what type of land uses are appropriate. And this is also related to what I alluded to earlier with the Planning Commission doing a lot of work and being intentional about being very specific on what we want and what we don't want for certain areas through the township. So then your zoning can just kind of slide right into that to ensure that your zoning is complementary to your master plan vision. So 2.5 story limit. Retail, office, medical are all appropriate land uses with enhanced architectural and site design standards to serve as that village gateway. So again, the theme here is infill, development, and redevelopment to ensure that it is aesthetically appropriate and what Cascade Township visualizes to be. No residential, no new hotels off 28th Street. Star Glenwood mixed use. Those are the orange areas here. So we've been kind of calling this the Star Triangle that kind of hugs the highway there. And then just south of that on Glenwood Hills. So current existing conditions are more of a lesser used or underutilized office park. So the idea here is to kind of elevate that and offer more land use opportunities with which may take the form of office, residential, or light industrial uses, all of which are appropriate and would blend in seamlessly with the existing built environment. We have also identified some key ideas of potential density bonus programming as it relates to rural preservation in the township. So this is all related to one another when we talk about building heights and residential densities and silver and gold bonus status, which of course that will all be sussed out once policies, happen after the master plan adoption. But the key thing to note here is that when you target appropriate density and building heights and land uses to specific areas, that then preserves the areas that you don't want to support new development or redevelopment or infill development. So offering incentives perhaps for those areas where development is appropriate will then offset the pressure that the township is getting to creep into the areas where you don't want it. Waterfall Shops mixed use. So this is going to be the target Dick's Sporting Goods Party City area. Appropriate future land uses here include retail, restaurant, medical office, no residential. Meyer area mixed use. So again, that's going to be Meyer and the area and the parcels that surround immediately adjacent Meyer. Appropriate future land uses here include retail, restaurant, medical, office, or hotel, but no residential would be permitted here. So this is more of supporting the existing development that currently is there today. Centennial Park, existing is office park, mixed density residential, senior housing. We envision that to kind of be carried over into the future, but likely a greater need for residential than office, given 2024, there's a little bit more pressure for that. So I won't go into, a ton of detail there, but there has been a lot of conversation with regard to what is appropriate density, for Centennial Park. And we kind of landed on that 6 units per acre at most by right. And then potentially if the township were to be interested in offering that density bonus program in exchange for preservation of other areas of the township, then potentially up to 8 units per acre could be a conversation at the expense of the developer. Southwest mixed use, so this is previously known as the Four Corners, because it's at the junction of other or 3 other municipalities. Future land uses here include same as essentially what it currently exists, but likely a greater need for residential than offices, as previously noted. And then, of course, that potential density bonuses, provided that there are sufficient benefits to the township to warrant such.
It just, so that was the southwest corner.
Mm-hmm.
And right now that's slated for apartments and industrial,
Mm-hmm.
right? And those, with all the industrial, with all the tax abatements and incentives from the state of Michigan, then property taxes, they get property tax incentives, abatements for a long time. It depends, but like significant amount of years. So think of all the additional pressure that right now, if we were to go with the way we have it for apartment buildings and industrial, the additional pressure that would put on our fire department as first responders without the property tax income coming in to supplement it, which means then residents right now, us, are paying for, those apartment building owners and those industrial site owners to make a profit in our township without paying their fair share of public safety dollars. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And that had been happening, and it did happen when that most recent assisted living center at Spalding and Cascade went in outside of that, the desired response time, the fire department's desired response time. So we at the township, not we, but like the township, allowed that high density unit for profit by a business to be developed. That's where the first responders calls go. That's the black hole, which makes sense. Assisted living centers, they need it, get it. But it's a burden to us, and then the hotels. So those people that are making profits off of shady hotels and assisted living centers, not the residents. Right now, we are paying for that, and they're not covering their costs.
I have 3 areas with hotels in here that I'm not happy about, which is the Southwest mixed use. We don't need hotels there. We have a hotel area. We don't need new hotels in the Target area. We have plenty of hotels down by the highway, and we don't need them in the mixed use area around Meyer. So I would like to see those hotels removed from those 3 locations. They are very, very high maintenance
Crime.
for us, high crime. They use their public services way beyond the nursing homes do.
Mhm.
It's got to, I don't want more
The
hotels.
business model is rent cheap for extended period of times and call the cops or call Cascade Township every time we pay for it.
It's drugs, it's prostitution, it's
Yes,
guns, it's
so,
child
Trafficking.
trafficking.
yeah,
I don't want any more hotels in our township. We have enough. What do we have, 16?
There are like
14.
2 good ones though.
We have 14 hotels. I don't need 3 new areas to build more.
I don't,
so
can I
these,
interject? I
Yeah.
don't think that's what Danielle is saying.
Is she saying we have to keep
Oh.
it where we've got it?
Well, we need to read what's on the screen. It says it's existing, right? And
We
it says
can't push them
that
out.
they're currently
Correct.
existing there. Our zoning ordinance, when we change it, will address what is allowed and what's not allowed. So this right here is reviewing what is existing today as we see it. It's not what's being proposed in the new master plan. I just want to make
Want to
sure.
get my point out there. No more hotels.
So
Correct.
second issue that kind of, Mr. Homier, you're going to come back, right, with the proposed hotel license?
Yes. Yeah.
Has to be
I mean,
carefully
The
crafted.
township currently has a draft. We're getting some data from the sheriff's department.
And is that fair to say that that will be a tool that this township can use to help certain hotel owners not drain our public safety dollars,
That is the intent,
or at least they cover their own costs.
certainly the objective.
Lay off the old people. They're just.
No, that's not their fault, but the people making money off the old people, they.
Get rid of the hotels,
No,
lay
and I
off the
think
old
her
people.
point was, it was the location within the township
Mhm.
that the previous administration allowed it to be put somewhere that was outside. of
Exactly.
The response time, which put the burden on the fire
Yep.
department now to have to respond much quicker to an area on the edge of the township that they normally would not have. They should have been looking at those things originally when they approved that and only approved them within a certain area. I
And
think
well,
that was
yeah,
her point.
thank you for better stating that. And in the past, the zoning and planning acted seemed to be in a silo, not taking into account the needs and the issues with the fire department. And you can't do that unless you want to end up with dangerous hotels and stretched public safety dollars, which had we gone on this course, then the township would be footing the bill for, there was a third fire station that was planned for the southeast portion of the township. I didn't understand why that was such an issue, but it was because they were anticipating this type of development and they didn't think it through. They just assumed, oh, we're going to have this, so we need to pay for it. Not thinking that we're going to be paying for it, not all the people who are making a fortune off of industrial developments in the airport who then gets their on and off ramps. So it's the definition of shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, so I should make sure, and to Jade's point, that this is 100% clear. This plan does not plan for the extension of any new hotel development. In fact, there's actually a section in the future land use plan and the zoning plan that talks about how to mitigate or how to address those things as these hotel developments are becoming less and less aesthetically viable over time. Thank you. Desirable. So having said that, these areas that would allow them potentially are areas that where they currently exist today. And the township legally cannot say no hotels allowed. The only thing that the township can legally say you don't allow is marijuana uses. And after that, like that would be, and we have an attorney here, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but that then becomes an exclusionary zoning issue where you have to allow those certain land uses.
Yeah, there is an exception to that, right? I mean, what the Zoning Enabling Act says is that you cannot enact or enforce an ordinance that has the effect of prohibiting a lawful land use. But the second part of that is often overlooked, and that is where there's a demonstrated need. And it's that demonstrated need component that becomes important. Say, for instance, you have 14, 16 hotels. The interesting part about that might be, for instance, the vacancy rate. If you had 16 hotels and you had a vacancy rate of 95%, I could make a very good argument there's no demonstrated need for another hotel. If, on the other hand, your vacancy rate is at 99% of those hotels, then I could make a very good argument that there is a demonstrated need for that land use. There becomes a point, however, where you have enough. This goes with like affordable housing, hotels, any type of land use that you can think of. Otherwise, I'll give you an example. I could make a very good argument today that, well, you need more retail space, right? Because we're out of retail space in the township, and therefore you have to rezone certain portions of the township for commercial space. And that's just not how zoning works.
Wait, is that what the developers try to do?
Sometimes, yes. But it happens in all types of land uses, not just retail, not just commercial, but industrial and other emerging land uses like marijuana uses or renewable energy, right? We see that all the time where the claim is, well, you can't limit it because that's exclusionary. And that's just not how it works. Limitation is not an exclusion.
Right, but I'm saying if you prohibit, that is an exclusion, but limiting is not.
Yeah, I think there are even times when you could prohibit certain activities, even when they are lawful. Now, again, it comes back to the demonstrated need.
Right.
And it's a risk continuum, right? If I prohibit that land use on a risk continuum, I'm way over here, right? It's a risky endeavor because you're relying on this demonstrated need, which is kind of fuzzy around the edges.
I mean, risky for us?
Yes.
From a legal
From a
standpoint?
legal standpoint.
You would advise us of that, right?
If, yeah, and if you said, you know what, we're gonna allow hotels, let's say, for instance, you created a hotel district. This is where hotels will be. That's all where those hotels will be. You're not forced to expand that use. You've allowed hotels in that district. You don't have to allow it in other districts. It's the same premise that undergirds all of zoning, right? Industrial belongs here, commercial belongs here, residential belongs here, and buffers in between. That doesn't mean any and all land uses go everywhere.
Which is what some people try to tell you.
Well,
About-
certainly, so the argument generally goes like this. Well, right next door is zoned commercial, so why can't I be? And then you get that creep that you talk about.
Yeah, and thank you for clarifying. I apologize if I wasn't clear on that. This is to limit to where they currently exist today. That is the intent here, to not open the door for new opportunities for this type of land use that has been consistently an issue to then expand. And then briefly, some next steps. So this is like the, if everything goes smoothly and there's no big comments to address or anything gets bounced back and forth, per the conversation we had earlier. So tonight, if the board deems it to be appropriate to authorize the distribution and opening the 63-day comment period, then tomorrow McKenna will send out the distribution notice to the required entities, and I will work with township staff to ensure that the master plan draft is available online. May 16th would then be the expiration of that 63-day comment period, which then gets bounced back to the planning commission potentially for the May 20th meeting to hold the public hearing and potentially recommend adoption should they feel comfortable with it at that time. Should they feel comfortable at that time, then we're looking at potentially May 22nd or June 12th for the board to approve to officially adopt the plan. So I just put a note here too that we can still make edits through this process and through the 63-day comment period, but they just cannot be huge substantive edits. We can wordsmith, we can take in comments, we can discuss comments, but anything that's going to be a substantial deviation from what was distributed and reacted to from the public and from the required entities will then trigger a new review process. Any questions?
Jenny?
Oh, I just have a comment. As she just went through the master plan, I just want to make sure everybody understands that this is the master plan, which will then be approved at some point and set up for us to then pass an updated zoning ordinance. During the 63-day comment period, Danielle and staff will be looking at the zoning at the same time so that we can hopefully get the zoning amendments before you very shortly after the master plan is approved. Because the master plan doesn't really do us anything unless you act on it. So the key part is going to be the next phase, which actually in my mind is probably the more important phase. This is the public facing side, which has the public comments, has your public hearings, has your, you did your strategic plan in your public engagement sessions. The next section is where we actually get into the meat of it, which actually then puts substance behind the master plan. So I just wanted to kind of put that out here that we will be working on that simultaneously as during the 63-day comment period.
I just want to comment that I think, a required public hearing happens at the planning commission on this. That's the minimum requirement, which I suspect is what happened in the past, but I think it helps us as a board and as a township, one, to make sure that we're on the same page with what residents want, but two, really to protect Cascade, to protect character and the quality of life for residents, that we should do a little bit, it would be smart to do more than that and actively engage the public like we did during the strategic plan, because the more people that are aware of this and the growth pressures, the better we are at what we have. So I know that one public hearing is required, but I think we should do a lot more than that.
And maybe not necessarily public hearing, but maybe public education session.
Maybe a postcard.
Yeah, or public education session
Yep.
where Danielle could explain.
Yeah, I believe during the beginning of this process, we had talked about potentially adding an open house or something like that towards the end of the process so the
Mhm.
community could have another chance to provide comment. and we'd be happy to do that.
Mhm.
With that all said, I am making a motion to approve the distribution of the 2024 draft master plan, open the 63-day comment period, and get the general public's input. That is step one. So there's my motion.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Shipley, supported by, clerk Slater to open that 63-day period and proceed as recommended by staff
And approve distribution.
and approve the distribution. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
treasurer Corsange,
Yes.
trustee Kessel,
Yes.
trustee Shipley,
Yes, thank you.
clerk Slater, yes, supervisor Lesperance.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you for all the hard work on that. Thank you. Like, it's not easy, but you have done a great job. Next item. 2024, approval of the second read of the police power ordinance. And as I noted at the first meeting, the previous board meeting, first reading, the title of this agenda item is a bit of a misnomer because it has nothing to do with law enforcement at all. The intent of this ordinance is simply to utilize a more current and also more frequently used ordinance to kind of structure the planning commission. With that, Manager Smith?
Yes, before I throw it over to Mr. Homier, I just wanted to bring your attention that the version that was in your packet tonight was the outdated version. The one that you held the first reading on and was approved at the last meeting, I handed out. There's a physical copy that you have in front of you. That is the one that should be considered for approval.
Thank you.
And I know that there were some other questions that maybe the Mike can answer.
Yeah, Mike, can you just explain from your perspective a little bit what we're doing,
Sure.
what's recommended? Or,
I
sorry.
don't know if we actually need to go through the explanation again, but I think trustee Kessel, you had a question in regards to the language of a master plan versus a
Well, I had one on the vice chair and Mike corrected that.
yes.
I see in the handout we got tonight, I had a question on the functions, duties, funding duties, where you used the word, the conduct of the township comprehensive planning program. As it relates to the master plan, what is meant by that, Mike?
Well, as you know, we took this language from the zoning ordinance, right? Because a lot of these provisions were within the zoning and ordinance, so we just removed it from there. So your zoning ordinance refers specifically to that comprehensive plan throughout the zoning ordinance, and that's why it was included in this. So it's not a single reference necessarily just in this, but it's an overall general comprehensive plan characteristic of your zoning ordinance as well. So your zoning ordinance refers to comprehensive planning and the master plan, but they refer to them separately. Sometimes I think maybe it refers to them together, and they use that interchangeably.
So in this ordinance, if we adopt it, we're using it interchangeably?
Well, if you said to me comprehensive planning, I view that as sort of the master plan consideration and adoption. The master plan itself is also referred to as a comprehensive plan, even under the Planning Enabling Act. They use those terms somewhat interchangeably. And so then you have master plan, comprehensive plan, and within that, you have certain other character or designations like a future land use map, right? And so all of these things kind of make up that master plan or comprehensive plan.
Okay.
I can show you where those references are in the zoning ordinance.
No, I'm sure they are. I just wondered if that language was clear enough. I mean, I defer the planning commission chair if that's clear exactly what that means. because this is an ordinance that you're gonna have to abide by.
I really can't.
For the discussion, questions, motions?
The other, guess I comment was, I heard the planning commission chairman for the first time say that he and others, I didn't say at least how many, 2 or 3 other people objected to the number. I think I agree that we have asked the planning commission to do a lot of things this past year. And they've graciously done all of those by forming subcommittees that they worked hard on to get material together and present to us what their findings were. And they've done a presentation to us tonight. They did a presentation to us before on Round Hill, and then some practical things that they felt should be adopted going forward. And if the planning commission chairman feels that going from 9 to 7 is too few a number, I would, with the changes that were made before, make a motion to approve the new zoning ordinance, but leaving the members at 9 instead of reducing them to 7.
I have a question. I know we're unemotional.
Doesn't matter. Go further. Just, we gotta flush this out.
Okay. I know Andrea just left.
Can you speak
but
up a little bit?
Maybe. I know Andrea just left. I kind of wanted to ask her and you this question and Mike this question, just other municipalities that you work with, planning commission size. I think we talked about this at the last meeting. Average 5 to 9. Is that what we had talked about?
Yeah, 5, 7, or 9.
Yes.
Yep.
And so 7, I think we discussed last meeting, 7 somewhere in the middle. Feeling like that at that point, we felt like that was an adequate number. Again, we
Have you ever seen 9, Jade?
There was 9 where I was at previously. Before in other communities, I was 7. I think middle of the road is safe, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think I have one city client currently that's got 9 members.
Out of how many?
A lot. Yeah, quite a few.
Like
Most of our clients are 7. Most.
you have a 7-member board. Seems to operate well. I think the issue then is actually competent staff, the right staff and who you, the issue is not so much the number, but who you appoint to those positions.
Yeah, and I do think that being a previous planning commission member, I think that the subcommittees are a very recent thing within the planning commission. This is not something that our planning commission used to have a lot of in the past. And I think that with a lot of the things we are looking at with the master plan and zoning, putting some better, I guess, rules in place for the community. Personally, and again, being a previous planning commission member, I would anticipate having fewer subcommittees for the planning commission. That I think that in the last couple of years, this has been odd thing for us to be having this many subcommittees within the planning commission. I don't know, Mike, your communities that you represent, they usually have a ton of subcommittees within their planning commission.
No,
The subcommittees have
not,
served.
not generally any of them, with the exception of one that appointed a subcommittee recently. It's a 7-member planning commission, and they had a 19-member subcommittee.
Well, but that was efficient.
It was not fun.
And while I respect Ralph a lot, and I respect his opinion on needing 9 members because of subcommittees, but I think that moving forward, the idea would be to have the planning commission act as our planning commission, and not have to put that burden upon them to have to spend a lot of their personal time committed to subcommittee work, that we do currently have staff in place now to do that research and to present it to the planning commission in a public forum. I think is more appropriate.
Yeah, the airport committee, the subcommittee that worked on amending that zoning map to take out the industrial priority by the airport, the Round Hill subcommittee, and these are all in the last couple of years, that worked hard to figure out what went wrong to the point where it got so bad that a resident sued its own township, us, to actually enforce existing ordinances that we have. And then also, I think the Farmland Preservation Committee, subcommittee, all of these recent subcommittees to actually put some teeth into the township or the majority of people's desire to preserve the character of Cascade. All of those were to address important problems or issues that citizens saw. And all of those were to correct issues that occurred while we had 9 members on the planning commission. So I don't think the issue is 7 or 9. The issue is in this board doing its job to then take a leadership role, that we have the right staff and the right appointees to those boards. Good governance doesn't come from subcommittees. Good governance comes from the top down. And those subcommittees have been extremely helpful, but they were necessary given the resistance to change when you've got a township that had the same leadership and same administration for a really long time. I don't anticipate it at all being the same going forward now that we have really good staff. So I don't have a strong opinion, but the time to do it would be now, because we're at a point with a vacancy in the appointment process that if we are going to go to 7, which is more common by far, now would be the time, simply because no one is being removed from the planning commission due to this reduction, which makes this the appropriate time to have the discussion. Whether we're at 9 or 7, there's no resident member right now that is losing his or her position due to this reduction in membership. Trustee Shipley?
I agree with several of the comments that have been made by the board members. Certainly, the more, the better, as far as getting a embrace of opinions. But I think that this board has in the past utilized the planning commission to do their work for them. And that should end. The responsibility is here at this table.
100%.
Not by assigning it out there. I mean, we can assign, like Mike said, we could assign 19 people to a subcommittee. And I think that they've done a great job at helping the draft the new master plan. And nobody is being removed other than the expiration of a couple of the committee members.
There's not one person who would continue to serve that will no longer serve due to this reduction, which is the only reason why now is the appropriate time to have the discussion and make the change.
Otherwise, we're likely to have the discussion again, 6 months down the road, 12 months down the road,
100%.
whatever.
Well, in this discussion, if this was raised 3 years ago, how long have we been here, Timmy? 3.5?
Oh, 3.
It was raised at the beginning, but we didn't approach it because the time wasn't right, because it would have required possibly bumping somebody.
It would have
So,
displaced 2 members.
yeah, and it's not worth it, because
Also, within the last 3 years, I know some of our planning commission members might be able to state the accurate number. We have not been at a full 9 for how much of that time? There's been a majority of that time that these subcommittees have went on without having, I mean, right now you're at a committee of 8. Yeah, and you've been at 7. I know when I was on, we were at 7 and 8 for a while, floating between them. And we still did subcommittee work and did it effectively.
we're going to disagree. We don't all, this is an issue of like the more people, the better, the more diverging viewpoints. This is basically like, we're still going to disagree and we're still going to be on different pages. But essentially, when we make appointment, when I appoint someone, because as the board, we are the only ones who are directly accountable to the public. We are the only elected officials. So therefore, if we're going to delegate some of that responsibility to other people, I personally want to make sure that the person that's being appointed or serving on the planning commission shares my personal view that I don't want that area east of the airport that's a buffer zone to protect residential to go industrial. And I don't want someone on that board, or sorry, on the planning commission who vehemently opposed the purchase on the church, the purchase of the church on the hill for park property. So nobody's losing their position due to this reduction in numbers. It's just simply a matter of if I'm in the minority and people don't want that church on the hill park, or people want to go industrial and have more on and off ramps, then elect somebody else. But I'm not gonna, have someone sitting up there who's opposed such important initiatives publicly and consistently and made it so much harder to make these changes. So 7, 9, I don't care, but the people who are squawking because they may not be around, it's not that they're not going to be around because of the reduction in number. They're not going to be around because these are really important initiatives that they've made, they've opposed consistently. One person, sorry, it's not they. So either way, 7 or 9, the person who's upset about this isn't coming back unless they want to run for, and show me that I'm wrong and that my priorities are wrong, which they're welcome to do. But you don't just get to hang around on the planning commission automatically. It's a board appointment. And the risks are too big with the airport and the development pressures and all that we've got going on in Cascade. And the most important threat to Cascade Township is land use and development. So the most important thing is that we appoint people with backbones who share the same priorities to that planning commission. For example, the former COO of the airport that sat on the planning commission and never disclosed that and was begging me for a reappointment when I started. And then luckily I found out about it and confronted him. That person's not on the planning commission anymore, despite the old supervisor lobbying the entire board of trustees. So there's big stuff going on, and I think it's important that this board, the elected officials, are directly accountable, and we don't need somebody who's an unelected, appointed person behind the scenes making our jobs harder when they're not accountable to the public.
Ralph, I'll ask you again because I made the motion. Do you feel strongly about the 9, or do you think the 7 is adequate?
Well, I will say this, I think having a planning director on board now is definitely in your favor. I mean, she's the right person for the job, I think. And that helps me a lot. I mean, I can survive with the 7, but don't come to me with 3 more subcommittee requests in the next year.
We won't.
Because I just can't handle it. We've got our hands full right now, just trying to get through the farmland preservation.
And then you're not going to go off on a tangent and spin off onto subcommittees and stuff that this board doesn't think is a priority, right? It's a mutual.
Then I'll change my motion to approve the amended ordinance as submitted with 7 members.
I think Trustee Shipley wants.
I support Jim's motion, and most importantly, what Ralph just commented to us. With the majority of the work done and us taking the ball and running with it, should be able to do it.
There's members of this board that are on several committees. With the help of Supervisor Lesperance and our new township manager, we've put new staff in place. So this shouldn't come into multiple committees for the township planning commission. So we have staff now that we didn't have in the past.
And the person who's not going to be reappointed opposed that consistently and made it so much harder to find competent staff.
Supervisor, there's a motion on the floor and support. Please call for the vote.
It's a motion by Trustee Kessel, supported by Trustee Shipley, to approve the ordinance second reading as stated. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Shipley,
Yes.
trustee Kessel,
Yes.
treasurer Corsange.
Yes.
Trustee Nordhook.
Yes.
Clerk Slater, yes. Supervisor Lesperance.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you, Chair Moxley and Commissioner Rizzi, for all your help that you've had.
Thank you for listening.
It's our job to listen to you.
All right, item 020-2024, approval to amend zoning ordinance. This agenda item relates directly to the item we just had extensive discussion on, but Mr. Homier, can you explain anything additional or?
Yeah, so this is just the amendment that will reflect the removal of the planning commission material that you just adopted by police power. This is the amendment of that and the removal and then restating that. And I just want to, very quickly, trustee Kessel, get back to your point. So in the zoning ordinance, there's a definition and it defines comprehensive plan, master plan, general development plan, basic plan, and they all mean the same thing. So that's why that I suspect that was in there. So,
Okay,
yeah.
thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Times.
Further discussion or a motion?
Motion made to approve the amended zoning ordinance, which is the next step in this housekeeping process.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by treasurer Corstange to approve the amendment to the zoning ordinance as stated. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Treasurer Corstange.
Yes.
Trustee Kessel.
Yes.
Trustee Shipley.
Yay.
Trustee Nordhook.
Yes.
Clerk Slater. Yes. Supervisor Lesperance.
Yes, motion carried. Item 021-2024, approval of budget for Township's annual 2024 Independence Day celebration. Manager Smith?
Thank you. So this before you tonight, you had approved in the 2024 budget a line item for the Independence Day celebration, including the activities that occur after the parade, and other expenses that are going for that day. I've outlined those in the RBA that you have before you. And we are going to be contracting with Funny Business again, who have supplied the entertainment and all the activities that happen around the library. Historically, we worked with them this year in regards to the new layout because of the new Friendship Park that's going to have a pretty big impact on what it's looked like in the past. But they were able to come out and take a look and work with Melanie in regards to what that layout could be. And I think we're still going to have a great event. And actually that same day, we're going to be doing a ribbon cutting and kickoff for the Friendship Park. So it'll be the first time it'll be used publicly. So we're pretty excited. With what's before you, the budget allows for some allowance. It has some allowances in there and allows us to go ahead and purchase, as referenced earlier, marketing signage and things like that that just have not been determined yet. But the big piece of this is the contract with Funny Business.
Independence Day ceremonies have always been a favorite of this township as long as I've been here, and that's 1968. And without hesitation, I make a motion to approve the Independence Day budget for this year and leave it within the capable hands of the township staff to determine what that's going to look like.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Kessel to approve the budget for this year's annual 2024 Independence Day celebration. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 022-2024, 2024 Independence Day road closures.
This is a formality that we have to have a resolution by the board to submit to the County Road Commission to close the roads. The roads are outlined in your resolution. I can go over them if you want.
Nope, you're good.
Chief Majors, is your department capable of ensuring the safety along the route as you have in the past?
Correct. We will submit an incident action plan.
Thank you. Shipley makes a motion to consider the approval of, or to approve the Independence Day road closure to the Kent County Road Commission as normal.
Second, further discussion or a motion?
You're seconding?
We thought you had some comment.
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Before the vote. I notice in here it does say the parade will begin an hour earlier. And what is that time and how was that decided?
Chief, can you address the time change on the parade request?
Well, several reasons. It gets extremely hot towards the end of the day and participation wanes. And getting volunteers is a lot easier first thing in the morning, especially when most of them have things to do in the afternoon rather than just kind of
So is it 9:30? Okay.
9 to 7.
And also, in addition to the second of the motion, I just want to state that the resolution will have the words all changed to Independence Day where appropriate.
Thank you, Clerk Slater, and thanks for making that a priority on this one. So that's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Nordhook, to approve the Independence Day road closures for 2024. All in favor?
Aye.
Needs to be a roll call.
Oh, sorry. Clerk Slater, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Kessel,
Yes.
Treasurer Corrstange,
Yes.
Trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
Trustee Shipley,
Yay.
Clerk Slater, yes. Supervisor Les Prince.
Yes, motion carried. Is now the addition, it is now the, oh, Article 10, no discussion items. So Article 11, public comments or anything. Wait, it closed sessions after that. Am I right, Jade?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so anything on the agenda or not, name, address, 3-minute limit, we welcome you.
Again, I hate to give my name, but it's Rod Schultz, Orange Avenue. I'm here to comment about the cemetery, the pet cemetery. Beautiful cemetery, by the way. You can't find a cemetery anywhere else kept up as well as that place. Except when they've been barbecuing lately, it looked like they were burning rubber tires the other day and blowing right into those condominiums. And I don't know how you haven't had complaints on it before. And the only criticism I would have of the place other than that is their sign needs to be needs to be renewed. If you've got a zoning administrator, perhaps he or she should drive by there once in a while and check that out. But somebody should look into that. I mean, it was like, I've been to junkyards where they burned tires before when I was in a fire department, and it was worse than that. It was very, very bad.
Can I just clarify that you're saying they're burning at the cemetery?
Yeah, they have a crematorium there where
Oh,
they
okay.
burn animals. And maybe Jimmy Hoffa, I'm not privy to that, but it could be.
We'll look into it.
Yeah.
I think your barbecue statement literally, and then
It what?
barbecue, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's bad though. I don't, okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And I had to wait all this time for
Thanks for your patience.
Ken Vandercock, 7200 Layton. Jake brake. Are we gonna get a ordinance about Jake brakes or is it dropped?
Pass.
We approved that, I believe, in November or December.
Has it been posted or
We do not have this.
there's no signs? When are we getting signs?
We don't have the signs up yet. They have not been ordered. But the ordinance was approved and
I think it was
we'll be
December
caught up.
that
Was it
year.
December? So we'll get
So
them
it's in
out there.
full-
So it has been approved.
Yes.
Okay. Last meeting, it was announced that an individual in the township died and left $50,000 to the parks.
Yes.
Is the individual gonna get a plaque or a bench or something?
We are working on that as well. Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Hotels, are we gonna get this, when is this thing gonna come through? The ordinance?
I can,
Well, then I will,
go ahead.
You pushed it off onto the police department.
No, I didn't push anything off.
Well, that's what I heard.
They are getting data that we can use for the purpose and intent of the ordinance. So all of this is data driven, the way it has to be.
So is anybody pushing the police? The sheriff
Yeah, I think there have been inquiries about that data.
constantly or just once in a while?
I'm not calling him every day.
Okay. I mean, if you push, you get. If you don't, it gets
Yeah,
forgotten.
I'm pretty confident they're gathering that data. So.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Scott Rissy, 7238 Cascade Road. Try to keep this to public comment and not Q&A. I probably should have said these things at the beginning, but looking over your packet, the vehicles that you're purchasing for buildings and grounds, if your intent or if buildings and grounds intent is to place snowplows on them, they should check the box on the option for snowplow prep package, or Ford Motor Company will not provide any warranty on that vehicle if it shows up at a dealership and the plows on the front. I'm sure the selling dealer would probably be able to look at that with a blind eye, but the selling dealer is not local. So you will probably be dealing with a local dealer who didn't sell you the truck, and he's not going to extend a lot of extra grace related to that. So that's, and then the other thing is if they're intending to use the lights on their current older trucks on the new trucks, that's not going to work either. They have it used to be a $675 option to get amber lights built into the roof of the truck directly from Ford, because the new trucks are aluminum. The old ones were steel. So the magnetic lights will not work on the new trucks. So just throwing out a couple things there. That $250 for the warranty, if you're going to put a plow on it, is, or for the prep package, is worthwhile.
Appreciate it. Any other comments?
Hello, Scott Van Salkema. I just wanted to say a little thing about the Independence Day, and I also have something else. So today we gather to talk about the importance of the history of our great nation, July 4th, Independence Day. This day is more than just a date on the calendar. It is a symbol of freedom, resilience, and the unwavering spirit of a people who dared to dream of a better tomorrow. Calling July 4th Independence Day is not merely a tradition. It is a recognition of the sacrifices made by those who came before us. On that day in 1776, the Continental Congress declared the 13th American colonies free and independent states. It was a momentous step towards forging a nation founded on principles of liberty and justice. Independence Day serves as a reminder of the struggles endured by our forefathers, the battles fought, the hardships faced, and the courage displayed. It is a day to honor the visionaries who penned the Declaration of Independence, boldly asserting the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In July, when we celebrate Independence Day, we reflect on the values that bind us together as a nation. Freedom is not merely a word, it is a responsibility to cherish and uphold the principles that define us. The significance of calling July 4th Independence Day lies in our commitment to preserving the ideals that shaped our nation's identity. That day is an opportunity for each of us to appreciate the blessings of liberty and the diverse tapestry of our nation. It is a day to come together as one people, irrespective of our differences, and celebrate the shared journey towards a more perfect union. So let us not just mark that day on the calendar, but let us embrace it with gratitude, humility, and a renewed dedication to the principles of liberty. Independence Day is a call to unity, a celebration of the American spirit, and a reminder that the pursuit of freedom is a continuous journey. May we continue to honor and uphold the legacy of Independence Day, ensuring that the flame of liberty burns brightly for generations to come. Thank you. Also, I have a petition here, which I would hope that you guys would sign, is in order to take back local control of zoning for solar and wind ordinances. The Michigan Association of Counties has joined on to this petition, which is the Citizens for Local Choice, along with associated builders and contractors, as well as the Michigan Township Associations. So if you people would like to sign this, I would hope that you will, being all, I would assume, Kent County registered voters, that I can count on you to sign this to help take back local control of wind and solar ordinance or wind and solar zoning from Lansing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone virtually?
One, just a second. Tom, are you still there?
I'm here, yes.
Okay, you can speak.
Okay, this is Tom Richardson, 3438 North Applecrest. I just want to comment on the strategic plan. I was, looking at the plan in the packet during the meeting at page 27, the community input and issues of concern. The McKenna representative mentioned the top priority for village redevelopment. Under the issues of concern section, however, the top issue of concern was, speeding of traffic on main roads. The third item was speeding in neighborhoods. So I think I'm a little puzzled why there's a misalignment between the issues and priorities. but I would just want to raise the importance of, safety and that concern of the residents in the strategic plan. I know there's some aspects of the strategies in the plan that relate to safety. There was a point where it talks about safe routes to schools and about complete streets. But I think, people want safety, everywhere they go in the township. They want it, not just when they're walking in the village, they want it in their neighborhoods, wherever they go. And really, you need to have a comprehensive view of safety for wherever people are living and traveling in the community. So I would certainly suggest that for the implementation of the plan, you really consider safety and reducing speeds and maybe even reducing speed limits wherever we have safety problems. And I don't need to tell you on the board that there are a lot of safety problems. I know that you are, well aware of them. So I'm just raising that issue that the residents already raised in the community survey. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Just so expectations are reasonable, the township doesn't control or own the roads. This is the county, the road commission, and also that includes their ability to set speed. It's outside of our authority. Further comments? Okay. Article 12, closed session.
Yes.
Make a motion that we adjourn the regular meeting and go in closed session.
Second,
That's need to state the reason
Oh, pursuant to,
Discussion of
to discuss the
purchase, leasing.
or lease of real property.
Okay.
so that's a motion by trustee Kessel, supported by clerk Slater. Enter closed session to discuss the potential purchase or lease of real property. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
trustee Shipley,
Yes.
trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
treasurer Corstange,
Yes.
trustee Kessel,
Yes.
clerk Slater, yes, supervisor Lesbrunz.
Yes. We are now in closed session. Thank you all for coming tonight, listening and participating. We'll be back now.
Yeah, sit tight. Triple makes motion to return to open session.
Support.
The motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Nordhook to return to open session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 13, manager oh, no, let's, is there a motion or just,
Shipley makes a motion to give the township manager authority to carry out the actions as discussed in closed session.
Second,
it's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by clerk Slater and trustee Kessel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 13, manager comments.
I have nothing tonight.
Board comments. Motion. Oh, board comments. Sorry, so sorry. Important board comments.
I'm used to being short sheeted.
I know.
First of all, thanks for staying. I wish there were more people here because I've got a little problem with the county and also with Metro Council. Okay? In case you didn't know it, them pot lickers, because I'm not allowed to say nasty words, are preparing to put a millage out for county-wide transportation. That means us in Cascade will be supplementing the bus lines that they want for county-wide. Doesn't matter if it's Cascade, Cedar Springs, City of Grand Rapids, it's a millage that they're trying to sneak through for county-wide transportation. Secondly, I have it on good authority that their recycle campus, in which they guarantee a profit margin of a certain percent to the company that went bankrupt in California, is still on their agenda. I talked to Walt, our commissioner, about it. I'm going to be talking to Walt again. I'm tired of being road rammed down the road. Thank you. that too, by the county and the minions in the city of Grand Rapids. And that is for public, dispersation, whatever. The public can know about it. And I would also like to know, this was brought up to me by the former treasurer of Ada Township. On your tax bills, you'll see a 1% fee charged for administration and collection of county taxes, correct? Okay, why? Why do we pay that fee? We already have full-time staff. And I challenge the township supervisor to find out why we, along with most other municipalities, pay this fee. To me, it seems to be kind of a slush fund.
I don't know what he's referring to be honest.
On
with you.
your property
Yes.
taxes, you have down the administration.
We have it.
It's
We-
ours.
Yeah, why?
I don't know. I didn't know until you mentioned it.
Yeah, where does it go? We already have full-time staff sitting there stamping the collection fee and sending it on to the county. So I would like an answer from Ms. Supervisor at one of the future meetings. Because even though it's authorized to be administered, doesn't say we have to.
Oh, administrative.
Who's approved the millage for the transportation?
Has it been,
It's
Oh,
not been
the
approved yet.
countywide system that they wanted? Yeah, so it's gonna be up on the commissioners. Yeah, it's countywide.
eventually, it's in the early, the Grand Valley Metro Council
Go ahead.
is the area-wide organization for transportation. So they just, they don't have what they need yet. They are hiring a planning firm to give them the recommendation, to do a study, to then recommend a countywide public transit millage that would rope Cascade Township and other rural communities in with, county level. It's the same strategy that was used at the county level last year when they used the Grand Valley Metro Council for the airport access study. The only relevant part was the last few pages that referenced the 4 expressway on and off ramps. So it's a,
And from my understanding, now, I'm not good like Jim, with numbers, but from what I understand, the city bus line is in a world of hurt because of funding and money and lack of ridership. Golly gee whiz, if we have this countywide and we tax everybody out of the country too, we support the city as well. I'm a little concerned because my taxes went up this past billing season, just like everybody else's. And thank you for listening to me wherever you are.
the key is that other leaderships of surrounding townships outside of that 6 millage city aren't aware of it. And if it's not on their radar, then
And wherever Walt's at, I expect him here next meeting because he's our county commissioner. Better get his buns in here. That's all I have. Thank you for listening.
so the key is leadership of other townships that are not part of that six city millage for the rapid, that don't know about it. And ultimately the study is to then justify the county transit millage.
I know 4 commissioners, so I'll ask them.
County commissioners?
Yes.
Yeah, they may not even know.
And ask him about the continued development or continued emphasis on the renewable campus that they want to build.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. And also, they're mandated that we utilize XYZ company to handle that. Thank
Grand
you very
Valley
much.
Metro Council mobility study to be the tool that then provides the recommendation to support the requested county millage. Feel free to email or call. Additional board comments?
I have,
Yeah,
Treasurer
something.
it's kind of important, but everybody's ready to leave, so I'm sorry for making everybody stay late. Just an update to the board. A large portion of the township's funds are deposited in Flagstar Bank. We had some meetings this week with Flagstar and are in the current process of moving some of those funds around within Flagstar to protect those funds. the way they were previously, they were only insured up to $500,000. And some things have went on recently that have caused some concerns. So
What happened, if you know,
yes.
to prompt that?
Yes, it's, I don't know how much Jim knows, but, being in the banking industry. But December of 22, Flagstar merged with New York City Bank. And, New York City Bank is the designated holding company for Flagstar Bank. And earlier this year, New York City Bank posted a $240 million loss. And then also recorded billions of dollars in loan write-offs dating back several years that were not disclosed during their merger with Flagstar Bank. Then so that was kind of caused a big shakeup within the New York Community Bank, and several executives have left. They were replaced by a lot of old Flagstar executives have come back from retirement to help things out. In early March, a group of investors injected $100 billion in new capital into New York City Bank. And then instead of reassuring the market, it actually caused the opposite, for the market to react with fear, due to the similarities between the New York City Bank situation and the Silicon Valley Bank situation that happened last March. The market, their stock started crashing. They ended up holding, the stock was briefly halted that day to try to allow things to kind of settle down for a little while. And then on Monday this week, they announced a 3-to-1 reverse stocks. Calm thing, 3-to-1 reverse stock split was
It's a
announced
mess.
on Monday, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Me and Lorna and our deputy treasurer.
New planning, new
New-
finance director.
Yes, and she is very good. Met with our banker at Flagstar to come up with a plan quickly. Because those who know the Silicon Valley Bank situation and how quickly that collapsed and the money was gone. People pulled their money out, and unless it was insured by the FDIC, people lost a lot of money. So we worked very quickly. As of tomorrow, I think end of business today, they opened all of our new accounts and money will be transferred tomorrow into different accounts that are insured. So they're part of the insured cash sweep. So all of our checking account stuff will go into that. And then we'll have some insured CDs as well.
How much was the township potentially at risk?
Bill, 10 million, $10.2 million. was at
Unsecured?
risk. That was unsecured. We have, I think when we met on Monday, their balance that we had was 10.68 million.
Are they our
Flagstar.
primary bank with the township?
They are.
Do you know how long they've been our primary bank?
We were,
Not that long. We switched from Chemical to Flagstar about 8 years ago, 7 years ago.
about 6 years ago. From what we can tell, 2018 was when everything was switched over. I don't know why it was not put in the insured options that are there.
I don't know why either. Does anyone know?
They should be insured, but when the thing of it is with Flagstar, you only got a maximum amount of FDIC insurance, depending upon how the accounts are structured. And I don't know how they're structured.
But we as the township have the ability to choose where we
We
put our.
do, and there is the, insured cash sweep accounts, which they take that money and push that money into multiple different institutions so that it is set up to be insured. None of our money has been put that way, or it wasn't previously.
It's in that sweep account, 100% of that's insured by the FDIC, then, right?
No, I believe it's insured 250 per bank that gets dispersed within.
But it goes to hundreds of banks.
Yes, so that within that, all of your money is insured.
Sure.
Yes,
Whereas up to this point at the township, it has not been.
correct.
So is it fair to say that you as the new treasurer, new manager, Jade Smith, and the first time ever financial director are responsible for ensuring that over $10 million of township funds is now secured and not at risk of
Question.
going under?
Yes, and I will say, in addition to that, which was huge on Lorna's part, to be honest with everyone, my main concern was to make sure our money was insured, like to move it as quick as we can, knowing what happened with the Silicon Valley Bank, get it insured, get it where it needs to be safe. Lorna did speak up to Flagstar came to us with waiving all the fees associated.
Oh,
But
good.
then,
Well, that was nice of
yeah.
Those generous bankers.
Well, Lorna did push to, there's a 0.5% rate difference for the insured amounts between the sweep accounts and the accounts that we had it in. So Flagstar ended up coming back to, I don't know if it was yesterday or today, and actually bumping through this process, bumping us up even higher than what we were previously getting interest on this money.
Thank you, Treasurer Corson.
Was this available when we moved it into Flagstar?
I'm assuming it was.
I mean, I haven't been in banking for a really long time, but when I was in banking, sweep accounts are not new. This is not a new
So
concept.
this was an option before, it's just for whatever reason, it wasn't exercised.
So then as a nurse, you helped find
I was just gonna say, stop, you're the same person that you were opposed, you got in a 4-3 vote and you were not qualified in other people's view because you were just a nurse. It's pretty good. And then the person that is no longer gonna be on the planning commission and that opposed the Church on the Hill Park and supported commercial and industrial development by the airport, also vehemently opposed your appointment to treasurer.
Correct.
So
I just think the other thing that's really important to point out is I think that there was some minor pushback when Jade presented a finance director.
yep, by the same people who invested it in unsecure sources.
Correct. And I think that it's really important, to Jade's point, when he presented Lorna's position to the board, was to have somebody in that position as a full-time employee of the township that knows the ins and outs of what needs to be done is extremely important for a township our size. And the fact that there was some minor pushback with creating a position like that and having somebody in that place, she is doing a wonderful job, and she's only been here 4 weeks.
Do you, in your professional opinion as just a nurse and also Jade as a manager, do you think that prior to Lorna being hired, we had that level of knowledge and expertise at the township?
It wasn't done before.
And I will say the one thing that's great
Well
about
put.
Lorna is that, I think historically things move slow in municipal everything with it. And I think between Jade, Lorna, Andrea, a lot of our newer employees, things are moving at lightning speed compared to what they have in the past. And I think in a
Amazing.
situation like this, to have a full-time employee, as treasurer, I'm 6 to 8 hours a week. And to have a full-time employee that I can call up and say, hey, what are we going to do? What are we doing? She's texting me during the day. To have that staff on site in the township to do that is huge. And
Who notified you, Treasurer Corsans, or who raised the flag that potentially the township could lose because of private banking problems, over $10 million?
Lorna, she on Monday, I don't know if she texted me, called me, emailed me. Somehow she let me know and set the meeting for Tuesday morning.
Very much appreciate it. Very much appreciate Jade's new leadership, all the changes that have been made. It took to get here, fight all the opposition.
Will you take a motion to adjourn?
Made.
Second,
Support.
motion by treasurer, trustee,
Somebody.
everyone in the room, by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Nordhook to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.